friends, and you don't form unity by crushing your potential allies. And I really don't care what they believe in. They have a right to say it. They have no right to win. They have a right to try. And you have an obligation to protect that right. And if you're really mature, you have an obligation to listen. Ferret out the wisdom that they might have. That creates it. Which side maintains consistency of reward and punishment? Again, clearly we don't do that. The other side, I mean, think about the rewards they're passing out to their buddies. I remember one time Reagan, the head of the RNC, went to rich fat cats, and they said, we need to raise X number of dollars. We need you guys to pony up a couple $100,000 for the Senate Finance Committee, I mean for the RNC Senate campaign or fund or whatever it was. Those fat cats did. They ponied up. They ponied up big money. Every one of them got government contracts, became ambassadors, became something. They got reward. Okay? And that's kind of not in our rules, is it? And we're not going to pay people to be a good guy. See, so they're going to always have an advantage there because they're willing to bribe loyalty. Pay the important guy. All right? We're going to be a little bit, we're going to look for the guy that's most qualified. That's a tough one. And your human nature will come right to the forefront on that one. Because how do we reward an army based on a true good moral law? The reward is you did something good for your society. That's not going to, that doesn't spend at the dinner table. You see what I'm saying? That doesn't make you rich. So a rich fat cat isn't going to be joining our army unless he's got a real strong moral character. I'll answer your question just a second. The example is General McClellan in the Civil War built the Grand Army of the North, but he wanted to be president, he wanted to be more. So he couldn't use the army. See what I'm saying? All he wasn't concerned about stopping a war with the South, saving all those lives. The war would have been over had he just used the army. There would have never been a Grant. But McClellan was frozen in his ability to use the army because he was so afraid of being outflanked or this or that. But he had 10 times the resources and he could have crushed Lee. I forget the name of the battle. But he couldn't use that army. You know, it's like a tank maker who went and pinstriped the tank, polished it, and then the guy that's driving the tank says, hey, bad guys are over there in the bushes. What? You'll scratch the tank. Okay? A general uses the resources and wins the war. Okay? This whole thing about reward for good guys is a tricky subject. Now, does that mean a worker shouldn't get paid? No, of course workers should get paid. Okay? But when you're getting into reward, we're talking about something different. Okay? And they have tremendous advantage there because people are highly motivated by self-interest. We're trying to say self-interest here is protecting your liberty, restoring the American Republic, saving your children. But that still is not in the normal human economy, so we have to work through that, but we don't have reward and punishment quite worked out. Okay, now let's go ahead and a couple questions here.
Which did you say was stronger? The Army was stronger than Part D?
Right now, the size of the Army for good people is 10 to 1, 100 to 1 to bad guys. Bad guys are a special group. They're very vigilant, work real hard. It's like they won't go get a real job, and they can't actually work and do anything productive. But man, they'll work to death to get a government job, or to steal your money. It's like a thief. They're very industrious. It's funny. It's psychology. But the bad guys, they know their power. It's Machiavellian. Rules for radical, demagoguery. There's concepts that deal with this. So what happened in these law schools the guy was talking about? These top leaders are masters at manipulation. They're masters at the bread and circuses of Rome. They're masters at mob control. Okay? So the army isn't theirs. The army is just being manipulated because there's no alternative. You see what I'm getting at? There's no alternative because we don't have leaders showing a moral unity. And there was another question over here. No, no, you're good. Okay. Where am I at? Let's see. I usually generate some pretty good questions, so I'm going to go ahead and see if there's anybody that this is a good time for questions. Yeah.
All right, let's say you're successful. You take control of the party, you have now moral people in charge, and you write a moral platform. Where do you see success after that? What's the next step is you can then generate and give you the outcome, which is a moral society, a moral government.
First of all, it's a never-ending battle, but tactically it works like this. The platform is where you guys get to play with your issues and vent. Strategically, it means nothing. Okay? You work out what you would like as in other words, eventually you want those things in the platform turned into law. So right now it's purely venting because no one looks at the platform in power. Nobody in elected office cares a whit about the platform. But it's an important document because that is where everybody gets their chance to have their 2 cents and vent. So we need to mature that part of building platforms to be true. Let's really take it seriously, legislative agendas. My end of it is discipline. Change the party rules so that you can slowly connect the right to run for office and the Republican primary, which we can control, to some kind of loyalty to the goals of the party, which are going to be articulated. Now, at the beginning, what will happen is they'll go, huh? So I have something called Rule 43. Some of you might have heard about it. All it does is require, as a matter of law, and see, funny, people don't realize, if we write a party rule, the Texas Election Code says it shall be enforced as if it was a statute. It is law. That's what the Texas Election Code says. It fully supports the theories I'm telling you about. So I wrote a rule that said every candidate in the Republican Party must look over the platform and say, I agree, disagree, no comment, see notes. A simple request. Of course, they know what I'm up to because I told them what I'm up to. Next step is the candidates that are fighting against this, or they said they agree but they vote against it. Now, it's an interesting concept that you have to, again, it's all part of maturity. Once they're elected, are they Republican, Democrat, etc.? No. They're representatives of all the people. And so a true statesman votes his conscience based on deliberation. And we encourage that. But let's say he votes against us all the time. Then we say to him, we applaud you for your resolute stance, and if that's your true conscience, come back to us and convince us we're wrong. Failing to do so, you are now an independent, and you cannot run in our primary again. Wow! See, we don't tell him not to, we don't tell, if you're elected in a republic, their job is to study the issues to the point of making an intelligent decision. And we must always encourage that, or we become those that have collapsed, becomes machine politics. The party doesn't run the legislature. The party runs the party. And we have to have the moral character and strength to say, always vote your conscience. Except on things like organizations like the speaker's race. That would be a little different because that's not an issue. That's about our caucus being strong inside of another body. See, and that's a different kind of discipline. But let's say they always vote against gun rights. But we have it in our platform. For 20 years we've had it in the platform. Well, okay. So let's change a set of the platform to super platform. We call this core beliefs. This is just a party rule. So everything I'm saying is just a matter of us writing this out. Party rule, super platform. Now, we use the standard of the Declaration of Independence. A unanimous vote of delegation, which means 31 delegations, all of them with at least a majority vote, say this platform plank is so important you can't be a Republican unless you are supporting and achieving this. This happened, by the way, in the Democrat Party in Texas when they tried to pass, when they did pass the 17th Amendment.